Thanks very much, Linda. Lovely to see everyone today. I hope you enjoyed the silent disco. Karina and I certainly did. We were strutting our stuff. And hello to all of those of you online. So we've got quite a task. It was great to meet Linda online. But even better to meet Linda in person. We've got quite a few things we want to share with you. Everything from the sort of place-based research that we're doing in Bradford and across the globe, and right the way through to concepts of death, dying, bereavement, and how we work collectively at that social scale. So my first sort of task is very much, if you don't know Bradford, to really encourage you to get to know Bradford, and you have a real chance next year because Bradford is the next UK City of Culture. And Karina is our representative, our bridge between the university and the team behind City of Culture. But we are an incredibly young city. I know there have been one or two themes through the course of today about the youth in our communities. We're an incredibly rich and diverse city, a very welcoming city. We were one of the first cities of sanctuary. We have two World UNESCO designations. We are the first city of film, UNESCO City of Film. But I suppose one of the things that we're going to revisit through the course of our presentation is the fact that actually we are more than 2/3 rural. So as a metropolitan district, we've got a lot of interesting things and a lot of positive stories beyond the sort of challenges that as a city we also face. I'm going to be talking about digital in a different sense. So I lead our capabilities around visualizing heritage at Bradford. And one of the key things that we've been looking at is the use of digital twins. From the perspective of some of our partners within the local authority, it's about how we bring that to bear on planning and regeneration, some of the heritage aspects that are critically important in terms of things like townscape heritage. And it is that heritage connection that, of course, we bring from the university, whether that's for education, for interpretation, for tourism. But that sort of concept of digital really comes to the fore in other ways. We've been talking about green, blue infrastructure, and very much our sort of connections there are important in terms of the sort of linkage to very contemporary issues. So this is some work we've done in Tanzania. One of our co-authors from the University of Dar es Salaam, picking up on music again, bongo flavor music, very young population in Tanzania as well. So connecting with youth through key initiatives around here, connecting climate and heritage. And there is a lovely link if you ever get a chance to listen to that. It's a brilliant piece of work. So natural heritage, tangible heritage, that concept of heritage at risk, and of course digital very much capturing that snapshot in time, how we can sort of use that for baselining of information. The intangible, so again in Tanzania, working in a place called Bagamoyo, a city where we've translated that sort of use of digital twins in a very different context, actually using it to capture narratives, things around boat building traditions or the connection with the sea, or that importance, raising that awareness of heritage. But back in Bradford, of course, drawing that sort of connection with projects across the globe around data-driven decision-making, how we can sort of think about engagement. And of course, we've been beneficiaries of funding from DLUC, Department of Levelling Up Housing and Communities, on projects using digital as part of engagement, an engagement tool. Part of that connects with our work in Saltaire, a project funded through the PLACE programme, like Roots and Futures, looking at the UNESCO World Heritage Site, but also ensuring that we don't just focus on the city centre, that we push that interest from the city into other reaches within the district, whether that's through heritage trails, active travel, and working with some of those community groups. Important as this moment is for Bradford with City of Culture, there are other key things that are ongoing. One is a new project that is starting next month called Up North, a lovely play on healthy urban places led by the Born in Bradford team, a longitudinal study looking at life chances for the youngest in our communities again. And it's a sort of 4-year project where we're going to be looking specifically at communities and using some of our new assets. So vehicle-mounted capture, that means that we can actually capture at pace, whether that's helping biodiversity net gain, whether it's helping our understanding of transport issues or baselining heritage information. This, one of those key buildings, the only Grade 1 listed building within Saltaire, the United Reformed Church. There's been some discussion today about access and discoverability. Well, you can't even take the general public into the bell tower of a building like this, let alone the youngest in our community, the schools groups. And this is where I'm going to sort of pick up on aspects that have been really key and hand on to Karina, because we worked together with community-based artists and artist teacher, thinking about access and digital literacy, that discoverability, the observations that they bring to that sense of belonging, that connection with place.
Thank you. Yeah, so to follow on from that, just talking about our People, Heritage and Place project, this is really getting our young people to think about the place they live in, think about their identity, but also where they're from, what stories they bring, and about how everyone identifies with where they are now and what their journeys are. So journeying was a big theme of this, whether it's, literally just the walk to school. And so working with our artist teacher, Sharon Snalem, we had workshop with a local school kids. They were inspired by the digital twin and, seeing inside the buildings. We scanned their school so they could see that. And then they were also inspired, the pictures on the right were using iPads. So they were drawing over pictures on their iPads, quite Hockney-esque, which will be relevant in a moment. And we held exhibitions in the school of their artwork. And it was, we also worked with 2 different schools, and then the school pupils got to work together with each other across the village. So that was really exciting to see that dynamic at different age groups as well. So we were learning from each other, and they were recording what places were important to them. And, it's really interesting seeing it through the eyes of the primary learners. So sometimes it was the traditional heritage sites, but often it might be the ice cream van or even the pub, which was fantastic. And then we were part of a Saltaire Arts Trail, where as well as our virtual dome, which was an immersive space displaying some of the content, we also had an exhibition with school children's artwork displayed in the iconic Salts Mill building, which is a massive heritage space in itself, right in a room adjacent to the big Hockney that's on display there. So it was just fantastic to see the school pupils' work displayed alongside a kind of massive Hockney piece. David Hockney, obviously a local artist. And part of this work is also, for our colleague Adrian Evans, has been working with City of Sanctuary to map out heritage places for visitors as a kind of city of welcome, and actually thinking about the routes between Bradford itself and some of the more urban locations, and trying to get people to claim ownership of the rural as well as the city. And And now briefly, I'm just going to talk about some of the other projects that have helped inspired this. So very much place-based, but also drawing on concepts of identity, which has really got us thinking about people's well-being, and in this case, cohesion too. So this was a Building Resilience Through Heritage project run by ourselves and a number of colleagues at Bradford with our key partners, Mercy Corps and Jordan Heritage and South Azraq Women's Group. Here we ran a project in Jordan that very much came out of fragmented heritage and curious travellers' methodologies. Curious travellers web scraped images web scraped from the internet to recreate kind of people's memories. And here we worked with refugee and host communities to think about the value of heritage for refugee and host communities. And we worked in the Azraq refugee camp in North Jordan with our partners Mercy Corps. And they asked us to work in Village 5, which was an area that is where people are placed when they haven't got the correct paperwork. It's a very high security area. It's got a big fence around it. It's literally like a prison inside a prison. And so obviously we're a bit, daunted, but, working with our partners was really amazing. With an eye on sustainability and sustainable development goals embedded in our project. What we did is we went into the camp and we worked with the people in the camp to find out what heritage was important to them. It was really important that we weren't going in and saying, what heritage should be important. And we were looking to find out whether heritage could be a tool for well-being and cohesion for these populations that have obviously had massively traumatic experiences, are displaced from their homes. So working with them and identifying places, we were able to, again, use the Curious Travellers methodologies to web scrape images of places that they could no longer visit and recreate them in virtual reality. And then using this, we then had a 2-day cultural heritage event in the camp. Part of that was showcasing the sites in the virtual reality sphere, but it ended up being a bigger part of it in the end was also the intangible heritage. So people's music, stories, sharing of food, dancing. It was a really vibrant 2-day event. And we also had a corresponding event in Azraq village as well, which has also got a big mix of different populations of past migrations, past refugees. Here in the corner, for instance, you can see we're part of a Bedouin community. Again, talking about their skills, their dancing. And so I just wanted to bring out briefly some themes in our evaluation. So one was the intergenerational benefits in, the children were really engaged with the virtual reality. And then through that, they wanted to ask their parents about the heritage sites. And what was also coming through was the fact that it wasn't, the sites that were recreated weren't the monumental. Yes, we did have Azraq Castle of a mosque, but actually it was the local souk, the marketplace, that was just as significant for creation. So it really helped share stories. And then for me, it was just so amazing going back and talking to people about the sharing of food that had really created new networks across the camp. And they talked about now having new neighbours and new families within the refugee camp. We can really see this kind of helping to build resilience. And then the importance of identity. I'm just going to read this quote. I used to repress memories. Since the Cultural Heritage Festival, I realise I am forgetting my heritage, and I don't want to. I want to remember who I am and pass this on to my children. And then in the town, we saw the children of the different, areas uniting through dance, combining their different music. But just to say that it's really fundamental in this is the psychosocial support. We wouldn't have just gone in there as archaeologists to do this. We were working with camp specialists who were really trained in PTSD and could use this as a therapy as well. So that is really fundamental to think about the safeguarding of the people we're working with. Also the importance of co-creation. So then telling us, and then the importance of legacy. So us training the camp, leaving the equipment out there, so that now the cultural heritage festivals and the virtual reality happens without us, and that's the best scenario. So it is, carrying on without us being there. And then just very quickly, some of the things that kind of empowered us to do this are the work that I led on continuing bonds, where we used funerary archaeology to get people talking about death, dying, bereavement and loss, with the past being a safe space with which to broach quite a challenging and difficult topic, and also to challenge what people think of as right or normal in this context. Following on from that, so we worked with health and social care, and that my partners were working in end-of-life care, so it's quite an unusual collaboration between archaeology and end-of-life care and psychology. And from that came the Dying to Talk, which embedded the same principles, but we co-created with resources with young people, for young people, to enable them to talk and build resilience around the topics of death and dying. And we used their resources in festivals of the dead with local schools, again aimed at building resilience around talking about death and dying. And finally, we created a toolkit for counsellors and psychologists based on some of the work we've been doing to kind of as a continued CPD tool, but also for use with their patients if they wish to. And just to finally end on my point that none of this would have been possible without collaboration. The collaboration is key. So fantastic partners, the concepts of co-creation going into this, and just that importance of place-based research for kind of building resilience, thinking about people's heritage and for their general well-being, which is work we're looking forward to continuing, especially with Linda and team.